My name is Gretchen Pleuss, and you're watching the Jam interview.
So, what's your story?
What's my story? I am a singer-songwriter. I am sort of Akron native. I'm from a couple different places in Ohio. I moved around a lot as a kid, but Akron it's always felt like home, and I went to the University of Akron. So I ended up here, and I've been pursuing music for the last 4 or 5 years now, full-time. And so I guess my story is that I'm just trying to deliver my artistic message the best way I can so that it also reaches people and they can relate and maybe find some solace and healing from it.
What is your artistic message?
Oh, man, we're getting right to it.
Yeah.
There's like no small talk in these. I guess my artistic message is that, that we're all kind of connected. And not to say that all my songs are about, like happiness and love and those things. It's also about being connected through the dark times and through hardship and, the fact that, like, we as individuals tend to think that, like, we're the only ones experiencing heartbreak or loss or grief or whatever it might be, when the fact is that everyone is sort of interrelated and interconnected, and everybody goes through these things on some level. And that's the beauty of music and art, is that it's the medium that we use to connect and hopefully get through those things together. So I think my artistic message is simply connection.
Do you, when you're writing songs, do you utilize personal stories or do you utilize other people's stories to get that message across?
I guess a little bit of both. I definitely have gotten more personal in recent years. I think I used to sort of not want to be that vulnerable. And then I realized that vulnerability is actually what makes it easier for people to connect to you. So I've been able to open up a little bit more in my recent, in my more recent material. But I do write about other people as well, other stories. Sometimes if I'm, depending on what's going on in the world, I also write about situations that maybe don't necessarily affect me, but affect other people and other people that I care about. So, for instance, like in kind of the political sphere that we're in right now, I've written quite a few songs and poems and other things too, but a few songs that address like specifically like world problems, not just my problems, because those affect everyone too, and on a bigger level. So, yeah, I think I definitely I try to get personal with it so that, if somebody's listening to it, they can sort of channel it and hear it and be in that situation, because you don't want to write something that is so hard for people to connect to that they're just sort of listening and analyzing it versus feeling it,
Absolutely. I guess going back to trying to be more vulnerable, I guess what kind of ways do you do that?
I think crying.
Okay. Yeah.
No, honestly, like just just being able to embrace all of my feelings, and being able to also separate myself from them in the moment that I'm performing them. Because when I'm writing them, I can be as emotional as I need to be to get the point across or to deliver the story that I went through personally or what have you. But I also had to learn how to, like, I'm a very emotional person. And so when I'm performing, I have to really separate myself from the emotion of being in that song. And be able, just in order to deliver it. So, I think even writing, like, recently I wrote a song about a friend's death, and, a couple years ago I would have never been able to perform it. And now I'm able to sort of, like, put myself in the performer role or as a messenger versus the main character, what have you. So I think a lot of it's just learning how to balance emotions. And I didn't used to be so good at it, and I'm still working on it, but it's gotten easier the more I write. And I think that's just, again, with practice.
Sure.
So.
Do you, I guess, deal with vulnerability outside of the music realm or writing?
Definitely,
Okay.
yeah. I'm a very sensitive person, so I've had to find other ways to deliver it too, which whether that's through like poetry and art. I do art. I don't share my art with other people, but I do paint and I write poetry. Some of it I share, some of it I don't, because some of it's very personal.
Yeah.
So I've learned how to find other mediums, because sometimes songwriting is not enough,
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely explore other avenues, and and then even just in like the most like basic way, which is communication with others, with my friends and like lovers and family, like being a little bit more raw instead of always like trying to hold it together.
Yeah, sure.
That's definitely helped like my artistic process too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about I guess we can walk away from this subject, but
Before I start crying.
if you want to cry, you can. Yeah, I'm not going to judge you.
The rest of the interview is just me crying.
It can be that.
Yeah.
I guess what kind of ways do you find that is strong in terms of messaging behind your music? I guess what's worked for you in terms of, or at least what have people come up to you and say about your music in terms of the messaging?
Yeah. I think, I know that there was like success in delivering a message when someone comes up to me crying, or someone comes up to me and opens, like it shares part of their life story. That song really affected me because I lost my sister, last year. And someone said that to me after a show recently. I wrote a song for my sister, who's still living, but it's a sad song. I wrote it, and this person, I saw him in the audience, and he was crying, and he came up to me and said, I really needed that, thank you. And so I hear that a lot. I really needed that, and that makes me feel like, I'm on the right path, I'm doing the right thing, because, ultimately what you want is people to feel comfortable enough to express themselves too. And I think as a society, we have this tendency to try to act like we have it all put together and that nothing's wrong. And, when the reality is you go outside and you run into a stranger and they just lost their parents last week, or, there's something going on with every person.
Yeah.
And it could be as simple as, some people say, oh, it's not a big deal if, you go through a breakup. A breakup is really hard. So even songs about like love that's lost is important, because those feelings are real and they're valid. And I think people need to know that it's okay to express them and know that other people are doing that too. So yeah, like I had another guy come up to me that said, after I wrote a song and played it, and it was definitely a very forthright song. Like it was pretty literal. I didn't use a whole lot of metaphors or anything, and it was very personal. And he came up to me afterward and said, I really appreciated the fact that you're just kind of bleeding up there. Like you're like an open wound and letting everybody see it. And that really meant a lot to me, because, it was kind of one of the first times that I'd come out on stage and like really bared part of my own loss and heartbreak. So, I think I used to shy away from it because I thought it was sort of like weak. And that was, again, like societal constructs that I was used to. But now I realize that like it takes a lot of strength to come out and bare your soul, and people do it every day, not just musicians, not just artists, but I really respect people that are able to, just be vulnerable and be real with other people.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it's hard for, especially with, you have social media, and then also just people wanting to show them their best selves.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's hard to break from that facade and share your emotions.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
the other thing with, social media is you're constantly comparing yourself to others and saying, well, why don't I have my life as clean and tidy as that person does? So people have this tendency to try to only show the best parts of their life. And, I've noticed recently, too, like how many men in particular have come up to me and been very emotional after I play a song. And that to me is important too, because, like men in today's society, they're taught that they have to be really strong and carry all of that emotional weight and not show it. And for me, when I see a man cry, I think it's a beautiful thing. And so when I see an audience member that's male, cry or come up to me and be really emotional, like that's important. Like I feel like, men and women need it, but I'm really glad to see that barrier is starting to sort of break down, you know, these weird gender stereotypes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important for your friends and maybe just strangers being able to show support,
Right.
show that emotional support, and just being someone that listens to them.
Right.
I think that's really important when it comes to making sure that somebody's emotionally healthy or even getting that stuff out of their head.
Right. And that's the thing, you don't have to be friends with somebody to empathize.
Right.
You just recognize that they're another human being and know that their struggle is valid and that, that we should support each other in these moments.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, I guess thank you for, doing the interview.
Yeah, of course.
You want to talk about your announcement?
Oh, yeah. What's going on?
Yeah.
Sure. So right now, I just finished up an album and it's being prepared for release. I just signed with Sun Pedal Recordings, which is a distribution of Warner Music. And it's a small label based out of Cleveland, Ohio. I'm really happy to be part of that roster. I have some other friends on it as well. And it's very one-on-one, really a good family feeling. So we're putting out my first single on November 2nd, Friday, and it's called Everybody's Pretty. It's sort of an ironic song. But I'm really excited for that one to be the first single. I think it's like it's sort of a strange song to be the first single, and that's why I'm happy about it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this album in particular is really close to my heart. Like I expressed to you, like it's kind of raw, vulnerable material, and so I'm really excited to put it out. The album is gonna drop in March 2019, but there's gonna be a few singles before then and some other announcements. So I'm just prepping. I'm prepping for lots of new things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sounds very exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Describe, I guess, your journey thus far.
Yeah.
And maybe a couple words or a sentence.
Mm-hmm. My journey thus far. I guess chaotic.
Okay.
Beautiful. What would the word be? I get in a matter of speaking, I fought it for a long time. Like I didn't want to do this. This is crazy, but I really didn't. I was like, this is too hard. I don't want to do this. And then suddenly one day it just clicked and I thought I have to do it. I can't not do it. And I want to do it.
Was it because you thought about like the journey, maybe the obstacles ahead, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
It just, I've had to force myself to be my own boss at times, and I didn't used to be good at that. I had to learn how to do how to acquire all of these new skill sets that I didn't have before, like in terms of the business venture and but also just presenting myself. Like I don't really like being, I suppose in my own circle of friends, like I can be the center of attention and it's fine.
Yeah.
But I had to really get past my own self-conscious issues.
Yeah.
And to be in this place. And also, I mean, you know, societally, like I was taught, like I was really good at school, and I thought, you know, security and safety was something I really wanted because I didn't have much of that growing up. Like it was very sort of like chaotic and wavy. So I was really like, I wanted security. I wanted like a safety net, and this has absolutely no safety net. Like I am in this, in a position where any day I could just lose it all. But it's really exciting at the same time. It's like super exciting, but also terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anything in any profession could happen. I mean,
It's
you
true.
can get laid off.
Yeah.
Anything. Yeah.
And I didn't
anything
used to
happen.
think that way, but
Right.
now it's like the economy showed me otherwise.
Right,
Like, oh,
yeah.
wait, I guess I'm just as secure as everybody else.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody has health insurance. It's
Right.
fine.
Yeah. It's just that you just happen to have a different profession.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
So I guess in a matter of speaking, it'd be chaotic and beautiful and soulful, fulfilling. You know, it's like this, I feel like this is like where I'm supposed to be. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks you, Jamal.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Keep jamming.